My name's Steve Loft. I'm the co-curator of the Home on Native Land exhibition here at the beautiful TIFF Bell LightBox. And I'm also an independent curator and an academic.
Okay. Tell me about this exhibit.
This exhibit is, tell you about this exhibit. The whole thing came about when Jesse and I, who have known each other for a long time, we've been friends for a long time, we've had discussions and conversations over the years about ideas of indigenous aesthetic. For him, because he's a film historian, a film critic, and a film analyst, and a film theorist. And me, I've worked for a long time with visual art, indigenous media art, and indigenous new media art. So we've often had conversations about the threads that really come out when we talk about this idea of an indigenous aesthetic and art history. So when he told me about the cinema showcase he was putting together for the Lightbox this summer, I was really excited about that. I'm always happy to see that kind of engagement and engaging the public. And then he surprised me by saying, and I want to put an exhibition in our beautiful gallery, and I'd like you to come and work on it with me. And that was a point that I thought, we've talked about doing a project together over the years. I thought, this is the one. And when we can take some of those threads that we've been talking about so long and present them in a way that really works with the cinema showcase that he's doing, but also stands as its own exhibition as well, as also as a presence, an indigenous voice. And so we started to pull out the things that we thought were really important in filmmaking traditions for Aboriginal people and also visual art traditions.
And when you say indigenous, this isn't an exhibit just about Canadian indigenous culture. There's four, right?
Yeah, we highlighted the four nations with the largest indigenous art making communities. Certainly there's more all over the world, but in Canada, the United States, New Zealand, and Australia, we've really seen over the last 20 to 30 years the emergence of very strong indigenous art making, filmmaking, and this larger idea of a significant indigenous culture. And so we chose those four nations to showcase in this exhibition. So we're really happy to have really strong representation from all four countries. And these are major artists who are internationally renowned, who have had who are big on the world stage as well as within their own countries. So we're also acknowledging that these are people who are at that point in their careers. They've made such a huge impact within their own countries, and then in the larger sense in the international indigenous and larger visual and filmmaker communities.
So I have seen the exhibit and it is beautiful. Something that really struck me was it's titled Home on Native Land, and the idea of home and space and spaces. This is a very openly spaced concept in the exhibit. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of that theme of home and space?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you. I'm glad you like the show. We're very proud of it, and we hope it'll get a lot of visitors. Yes, we see this very much as a meeting place. And one of the great things about art is it can be a point of access for people. So even though there's some really difficult issues that some of these artists are dealing with, it's a space that's very convivial. It's a place of meeting. However, the presence, an indigenous presence, is there. So we're proclaiming, especially with this big title, we're saying this is native land. That doesn't mean we can't all share it, but you have to have the native presence there. And this exhibition is very much about that. It's about proclaiming space that way, because space, land, home, these are all connected for all people. It's something anybody can understand. Of course you're connected to your home. Of course you have these deep-seated feelings for your home. And for us, that is this land. And so it's really important that we make that point. It's about sovereignty and self-determination and proclaiming ourselves as Indigenous peoples who also exist within this nation-state we call Canada, that it's okay. As long as we acknowledge each other, as long as we understand each other, and as long as we do it in an aura of peace, friendship, and respect. So it's about that. And when you have that, then you can tackle difficult issues. We have a history of in this country, and it's been very oppressive to Aboriginal people. We've got to start having those discussions in open formats, in ways that respect each other. And these artists are taking positions, some of them political, some of them in a humorous way, some in a more joyful way, but they're all based on these issues, and they're places where we can come together. It's why I really like that Lisa Raihana's piece is sort of in the center of it, because she speaks about a meeting place, and that's what her work is about. So you've got all these things, and you've also got that welcoming aspect of it as well. And you've got some hard-edged things in there, and you've got some tough things that we have to face, all of us together, Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people. And we have that, we come together, then we can move forward. And that's really important.
I also noticed in the display, you just spoke a little bit about this as well, is the difficulties and the difficulties of housing. I wondered if you would touch a little bit on that subject as kind of bringing that to a light.
Well, in Canada, we're faced with severe problems within Indigenous communities because they've been, their traditional lands have been taken from them. They've been forced onto tiny reserves and not given the support that they need. These are in our headlines. When we see things like Attawapiskat, this is a reality, and that's not art. That is real poverty, and it's real neglect, and we have to face up to that. We have to be able to see it for what it is and look at what caused it. And without rancor and without, guilt and blaming, this is about let's get this taken care of. We live in one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and we have Indigenous communities in this country that are living in fourth world, fifth world conditions. That can't happen. Like how can we be in this place? So while it's fun to work on art exhibitions, I'm very privileged and to be able to do what I do, it's also important that we think about the reality of the situation as well. We've got to reflect on that. We have this showcase of Indigenous cinema. A lot of those issues will come up in that as well. So it's not good enough just to come out and see the art. It's also important to reflect on what it means for us as Canadians, as Indigenous people, as non-Indigenous people. Where can we find the dialogue that is going to get us to the point where Attawapiskats don't happen? The great thing about the exhibition too, and I really thank TIFF for this, is they're opening it free to the public, so no charge, so as many people as possible can get down here and see this art, and so I want to thank them for that, because I think that they've taken a leadership role in some of the things we've just been talking about. They see themselves as part of that dialogue.